It's another awesome day. Greetings, Birmingham. It's your man D Mike coming live and direct from the basement once again. And we're talking about HBCUs and the terrible thing that's going on at Grambling State University. For years, we at Hype Soul Radio have been advocates for historically black colleges and universities for the main reason that there's a disparity, I can't even speak today because I'm so heated about predominantly white universities and historically black colleges and universities throughout the United States. We've had this disparity ever since integration has taken over in the schools. HBCUs are losing out yearly. And the recent events at Grambling State University, you see I'm sporting the black and gold. Not that I'm a Grambling State alumnus, but you know, I'm just a person that thinks that what's going on is just terrible. You have student athletes that have to protest mold in the gymnasiums, concrete walls, cracks in them, floors that are deplorable, multiple accounts of staph infections, and the list goes on and on. But this is one thing that's interesting to me when it comes to the world of historically black colleges and universities. And over the past 5 years, we've seen the state of Alabama boast 4 consecutive national champions. Okay? The reason I bring this up is because the state of Alabama now currently has the second largest number of historically black colleges and universities throughout the nation with 14. With all the national attention that the University of Alabama and Auburn University have brought to the state over the years, why is it that no one talks about Miles College winning the Pioneer Bowl, Tuskegee University making it to the Pioneer Bowl? We don't hear about those schools. Are those schools not important? Is it only important to white people when it's time to get that blue star recruit? Because the places that you're going to get these recruits, they're not in Tuscaloosa. They're not in Montgomery. They're in places like Grambling. They're in places like Huntsville, Alabama A&M. They're in places like Birmingham, Alabama. And the NCAA doesn't want to pay players. And I think this is the reason why the NCAA doesn't want to pay players. Because they have to pay Division I players to play athletics. They level the playing field with HBCUs. Because the stipends are going to be universal across the board, just like the scholarships are. And that makes the playing field level for the HBCUs to compete with predominantly black colleges, predominantly white colleges, excuse me. Like I said, this is very emotional to me, so it's very hard to keep train of thought. I had to go back to my notes of what I was talking. You have University of Alabama winning 2 straight national championships, going for their 3rd. But most of the student athletes that they recruit come from poor rural areas, where schools like Alabama A&M, Grambling State, Jackson State, Mississippi Valley State, Miles College, Tuskegee, Selma, Concordia, the list goes on and on. And when you have someone with a national spotlight like a Nick Saban, it's not his fault because he's only been in Alabama for 7 years. So it's not his fault that there isn't more being done for historically black colleges and universities. I think it's the NCAA's fault. The NCAA has the same notion that Governor George Wallace had 50 years ago. Segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. He wanted it to be a segregated school because they did not want people of color in those schools. And it's ironic that all the clamoring and all the money generated by these schools come from on the backs of Negro students. Students that come from the slums, students that come from the gutters, students that come from broken homes. And with the NCAA seemingly taking the same stance that George Wallace took 50 years ago. That's why I like the fact that it's happening in 2013, because in 1963, we were going through a volatile state in this country. And right now we're going through the same type of identity crisis, but no one is speaking upon it. So I look at it as, do we want our students, our Negro students, to constantly be subjected to lower conditions because they consider that the schools are inferior? The athletes are the same. If we have more Negro parents asking their children to participate going to historically black colleges and universities, you wouldn't have these problems. You would have schools that are able to compete on a national level. You look at over the recent years with the SEC going to 14 teams, the Pac-12, the Big Ten going to 12 teams, the Big 12 being reduced to 10 teams. Not one time have you heard about an HBCU being recruited to come to a conference. So it seems to me that the NCAA is still holding on to those old views that George Wallace had back in 1963. Segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. If it's more economical for a conference that's in the Southeast region to recruit West Virginia into their conference than it is for them to recruit a school like Grambling State, maybe I should have made an F in economics instead of the A that I made each and every semester. This is your boy D Mike, and this is just something to make you say, that makes a little sense. So think about it. When you talk about the University of Alabama and its great tradition, I think about George Wallace drawing a line in the sand in the face of tyranny. And it's segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. That's all we got here today, Hype Soul Radio. Peace.